Hi guys. Hello. This is so weird. This is so crazy. Oh my gosh. I have a microphone in my hand. I am so excited and happy to be here right now and to be recording this. Welcome to episode 1 of the Love You Like a Sister podcast. I'm low-key feeling imposter syndrome right now. I'm not gonna lie. I've been super nervous to start this just because I feel like the whole internet went through like a podcast phase, and then a bunch of people started saying not everybody needs a microphone, and I completely agree. Not everybody needs a microphone. Not everyone needs to just yap online. But honestly, you guys, I really do feel like I have a lot to share, and I have been searching for a podcast that goes over relationship advice and life advice from like a biblical Christian girl perspective. And I honestly was like struggling. I found a lot of podcasts that would talk about like the universe and like, kind of more like new age style. And some of the things that like they were trying to explain, I could kind of grasp and like agree with and understand, but I was just like really longing for something that was based a little bit more in like God and Jesus and how he calls us. So I kind of just felt inspired and called to start my own podcast, and here we are. I'm like kind of in disbelief right now, but I don't want to yap or ramble too much about my feelings and my imposter syndrome right now. I just want to get into the information and just how I can hopefully make this very fruitful. Kind of my vision for this podcast, like I mentioned, is going to be just knowledge, wisdom, and advice for girls that are rooted more spiritually from a Christian perspective. As you guys probably know, if you follow me on social media, I love Jesus, and I believe that Jesus Christ died for our sins. And truly, after the year that I've had, I just truly believe that he is our anchor. He is our foundation. He is our creator. And he is literally the only way that I've been able to get through this year. And I don't want to cry because I tend to get emotional when I talk about these things and think about just everything in life, especially everything that's happened to me in the past year or so. I literally brought my fan, so if I start tearing up, I can fan myself because I tend to get very emotional. But I just have been leaning onto God so much, and it's been such a crazy year. 2025 was just like, I don't even have the words to explain just how it rewired my brain. It's just actually crazy. Like, I see life through a completely different lens now, and I have a completely different like perspective on absolutely everything. And that has just given me so much wisdom and so much knowledge, and it's been incredibly painful, and it's been a year of really great suffering, but also joy and, like I said, wisdom that the Lord has blessed me with. So that is really like my inspiration for starting this podcast. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, because you probably don't, because I haven't said it, I went through a really painful breakup from a very serious committed relationship, and it just completely rewired my brain. It was so painful. It still is painful. Like, it's been months, but I'm still healing. I'm still learning, growing, all the things. But truly, like, the Lord is the only way that I've gotten through this. And through it and in it, I have learned so many lessons. And that is what inspired me to start this podcast, is that I want to bring that to you guys and just inspire you all to lean onto God and teach you how to like lean onto God through this. And this is not necessarily going to be like a fully, like, I'm not here to necessarily preach the gospel in every single episode. Like, I don't necessarily want this to be like, it's going to be faith based. Like, the advice I'm giving is based in like faith and in scripture, but it's not necessarily going to be me like preaching the gospel. It's mainly going to be me giving you guys advice, helping you navigate these like experiences that we tend to experience in our 20s, and just life in general as a woman, and just kind of how I've learned to navigate these things through the Lord. So yeah, but for today's episode, I wanted to start off with my testimony because I figured that's a good place to start. Episode 1, give you guys kind of like my story, backstory, so you can understand just like like the origin story, like literally my origin story, and how I came to know God and just everything. So you guys have like a foundation and a basis on like who I am, where my values come from, my experiences, etc. So yeah, we can get into that. And this is my fan that I used to dry my tears. Okay, so I grew up in a Catholic home. I have a mom and a dad who are both Catholic. They were both raised Catholic in the Catholic Church, and that's how I grew up. I grew up going to church with my mom and dad, and they would like put me in Bible classes. I was baptized as a baby. I got my communion when I was probably like 8 or so, and my confirmation I got when I was like 13, and I had to go to like Bible study classes for that. And yeah, so I was like, I've always believed in God. I went to a biblical preschool, so literally from the time I came out of the womb, I was learning about Jesus. I was learning about what he did for us, and like I've always had him in my mind, like since as long as I could possibly remember. I just have like memories of me being a little girl and praying to God. And I just think that that's so cute and so sweet to like reflect on my inner child and my younger self, and just think about how like I would literally talk to God when I was just a little girl. And yeah, now looking back on life, I can kind of see how like God has literally had his hand on my life the whole time. And he's literally been there with me every single step of the way, which I think is such a beautiful thing and such like a full circle thing to just look back on, like so many times in my life where I don't even know if I really realized it in the moment, but like looking back, I'm like, God is just so real, and he was with me every single step of the way. Sorry, I just burped a little. I remember being a little girl once, and my mom and dad fought a lot when I was younger. So growing up, I didn't necessarily have like the easiest childhood. I think I had definitely like a more difficult childhood, and I'm sure at some point in the podcast I will like get further deeper into that. But long story short, my parents would fight a lot growing up, and I just always would hear them fighting. It was really honestly scary and like hard to go through. And I just remember they would fight a lot about money. And I remember one day, like my mom talking about her job and talking about money, talking about how she was like worried about her job, didn't know, she like wasn't feeling secure at all in her job, and she was really stressed out about it. And I just remember as a little girl being so desperate to help in some sort of way. And I just remember taking my rosary beads that I got for my communion. So I must have been over the age of like 8 years old since I had my communion at that time. I took my rosary, and I like would go into my room at night and just pray like, Lord, please help my mom like with her job, whatever. I remember this so vividly, this prayer that I said. And I remember the next day my mom coming home and telling us that she got a promotion at work, you guys. And I'm just looking back on that and thinking about how that was literally God, like having his hand on me and on my mom and like in my life literally since I was 8 years old. Like that is so crazy to think. So I've always had a relationship with God. I've always known that God was real. I always talked to God. I've always prayed to God. Like I've always believed in God. But because there's always a but. When I was in high school, I was very troubled, honestly, to say the least. I was a very crazy girl, to say the least. I definitely got into the wrong crowd. I was definitely surrounded by just other immature teenagers, and I'm not here to play the blame game whatsoever, but I just think, iron sharpens iron, and I definitely wasn't being sharpened. I was being dulled, and that's not to blame anyone. It's all part of the testimony, but I will just say that I got into a very worldly lifestyle very, very quickly. I started smoking, drinking, partying, just wanted to talk to boys. All I cared about was like socializing, partying. Not that like these things are so far-fetched as a teenager, because they're really not. Like most teenagers will experience this at some point in their life, but for me and my friend group and where I grew up in South Florida, it was like on another level, I'd say, because I was surrounded by a lot of kids that had a lot of money or came from a lot of money. Like their parents had a ton of money. Everyone had boats, nice houses, nice cars, and it was a very extreme lifestyle. Like people were throwing huge parties at their huge houses, and we were drinking a lot. We were smoking a lot. We were doing other things, and it just was very, very worldly. And I had no idea at the time that there was anything wrong with that. I was so far from God in this time. It's genuinely like insane. Like the fact that I made it out alive is actually crazy, you guys, because so many crazy things happened and I seriously could have gotten so hurt. I like the amount of times I was like on boats or in cars with people that were intoxicated or just, not good. Not good. I'm so grateful that God was with me every single step of the way, but I was so far and distant from him. And now looking back, I can see that he was calling out for me and trying to, bring me closer to him so many different times and on so many different occasions. And I just would not give in because I was so distracted with this life of worldly pleasure. The validation from boys, the, thrill of partying and being in like the popular crowd or whatever. Not that I was ever one of those people to be like, oh, I'm like so much cooler than you. Like, no, I've always been nice to everyone and I value every single human being. But like, just to say that the parties, the drinking, the boys, the drugs, like everything, I just thought that was everything. That was what was consuming my mind all the time. And that was all I cared about. God was not on my mind at all. And I had no idea what it meant to live for God. And I had no concept of sin or like the consequences of sin. I was further, like, I wasn't even lukewarm. I was like cold at this point. I was like hardly even like a room temperature. Like, I don't even know. Whatever is like colder than lukewarm is what I was, because I believed in God. Like, if you asked me, like, oh, do you believe in God? Like, what's your religion? I would say, yeah, I'm Catholic. I believe in God. But I didn't actually know what that actually meant. All I knew was that I believed that there was a God in the sky that loved me if I was a good person. That's literally like all I thought of it. I didn't think anything deeper. I didn't think about how I actually lived and whether or not that was a lifestyle that was pleasing to God. Those thoughts never crossed my mind, ever. Like, I did not have a care in the world about those things. Literally, all I cared about was whose party I was going to that weekend, what outfit I was wearing, how I'm getting enough money to get a couple Four Locos. And yeah, that's literally all that was circulating in my mind at that time. But I saw pretty quickly where that lifestyle gets you. And it's destructive. It's so destructive, you guys. And now that I, understand these things and I have a much stronger relationship with the Lord, and obviously by no means am I perfect or do I live a perfect life? Absolutely not. But I'm striving every day to live for the Lord, and I'm obviously not living like how I used to be living at all. I can see now how the devil was just so deceptive, not only to me, but also to all of my friends at the time, because we were all living like this and we were all so deceived. And it's honestly so heartbreaking to see, because looking back, it destroys you so quickly. And I saw it with my own eyes and in my own life. And it just felt like I was hitting wall after wall, like just one bad thing after another kept happening to me. And I remember at that time in my life just thinking to myself, like, why do bad things always happen to me? Like, why do I always have to experience these consequences? Like, nobody else around me seems to experience these things. And it was such a frustrating feeling to me. And if anybody out there can relate to that feeling, I just want you to know that I know exactly how you feel, and it can feel very unfair, because you look around at everybody else in your life and you're like, well, everybody else is living the way I'm living. Like, we're all doing the same things. Why am I the only one that gets in trouble? Why am I the only one that has to go through these hardships and has to suffer and has to get like knocked down time after time? Because that's exactly how I felt. I was obviously in this friend group where we were living for the world and just, I would just say stupid, like just flat out stupid and deceived by the enemy that this is like what life was all about. And I would just look around at my friends and be like, why do they nothing bad ever happens to them? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, I don't get it. But now that I'm looking back, you guys, I'm seeing that that was literally God's way of calling me closer to Him, calling me out of sin, being such a loving Father to discipline me enough to be like, hey, you need to wake up, because this lifestyle is not getting you anywhere. And I'm going to keep knocking sense into you until you wake up one day and the light bulb goes off. And that's essentially how I see it now, looking back, because at the time I thought it was such a horrible thing. I was like, why do these things happen to me? I'm just miserable. Like, I'm miserable. God hates me. My life is horrible. This sucks. But now, you guys, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, God loves me so much. God loves me so, so much that He gave me these opportunities to grow, to learn, to escape this life of sin, to actually take off these rose-colored glasses of deception and see the lies that the enemy has been feeding me. That lifestyle, all it does is bring you chaos. It brings you heartbreak. It brings you embarrassment. It brings you shame. It brings you stress, guilt. Oh my gosh. I can't even, like, there's too many things to name. But let's just say God loved me so much that He kicked my butt. He kicked my butt out of that sinful lifestyle. And now we can transition into like my college phase of life. So that was high school. I graduate high school. multiple difficult things happened to me throughout my high school career, but at the very end, in my senior year of high school, another thing happened to me, and I was like, well, all right, this sucks. So I actually stopped smoking, I guess you could say flower. I don't want to say the name of the drug on this platform. I don't know if that's allowed, but I smoked like all of high school. And then my senior year, I stopped smoking because I had to, not because I wanted to. And I stopped for a long time, and that was a really big like wake up call for me. I also got really sick with like a really bad sinus infection, and that prompted me to quit juuling because I was also, of course, addicted to the Juul at the time. So I changed a lot my senior year. Like all of a sudden, my love for partying and stuff like just kind of went away, and I stopped smoking. I stopped vaping. Like I just had like a wake up call kind of, and I really changed. But then I went to college, and my freshman year of college, I kind of like reverted back to my partying ways. Definitely not as intense as before. I definitely had a bit more sense, in me. The frontal lobe was starting to develop a little bit at this point. So I was nowhere near as extreme as I was, but I was still living a worldly lifestyle. I was still, cared about boys. I still was going to, visit my friends at their like state schools and drinking way too much. And I just wasn't, it still wasn't good. And then my sophomore year of college, it was kind of the same, but I did go through a really, really difficult time my sophomore year of college. I had really bad acne. I was going through a breakup. I was just very like isolating on myself, and I was really sad. I still at this point believed in God, but was not at all living for God. And it wasn't until the end of my sophomore year of college. I actually used to be a bottle girl, which is so crazy to think, you guys. I have had so many eras. The lore is truly insane, which is why I'm like, they say not everyone deserves a microphone. Like, you guys don't even know the things I've like experienced in my short amount of life so far. But yeah, so sophomore year of college, the end of it, I meet my now ex-boyfriend, and I am like, I like him so much. Like I really, really liked him. And he lived in Miami at the time, and I thought that it was so cool. Like I loved going to Miami and like visiting him and stuff. And I really, really thought like just things seemed like so perfect. So I ended up not going back to college the next year. And no, I didn't drop out. I graduated. I have my degree, so don't even try to come at me. Not that like that would even matter if I dropped out, but no, I still graduated. I just did it online, and I moved back home. And we dated for a while, and I was like out of my partying phase at this point, because I like meet him. I'm like, that's it. I'm wifed. I'm done with this partying lifestyle. All I care about is my boyfriend, and I just want to hang out with him and like make him happy and be a good girlfriend to him. That's literally like all I cared about. So I'm done with my partying lifestyle. I wouldn't say ditch, but like I grew apart from all of my old friends, basically. All of my partying friends that I had in college, I just completely grew away from. It was like I just couldn't even relate to them anymore, because all they cared about was like hooking up with boys, partying, all these things that honestly at that point in my life, you guys, were triggering to me. Like thinking about hooking up with a random boy made me sick to my stomach. Like I couldn't even think about it. And like drinking, going to the club, like all these things, like even just the thought of it was genuinely triggering to me. And that's like all that they wanted to do. And that was like still very much a big part of their life. So I couldn't be around it anymore. And eventually I kind of just faded away from all of these people. So now I'm in more of my like wholesome girl era, and I completely just changed so much at this point. I did like a 180. My relationship with God though, still not 100%. Definitely still living in sin. I didn't have a concept of sin. I genuinely thought sin was like, this was my mindset on it, you guys. I literally thought to myself, I was like, oh, sin, like that's like people don't actually like believe in that anymore, right? Like, Christians, they believe in God, but they don't actually like wait until marriage, or like, they don't actually not get drunk or whatever. Like, that's so outdated. Like, I genuinely thought that, you guys. I genuinely thought that, which is crazy. And I'm sure there's a ton of people out there who still think like that and live like that. But guys, that's not the truth. Anyways, yeah. So we date for 3 years. Towards the end of our relationship, my faith just starts growing so much, you guys. It's crazy. All of a sudden, I'm getting these convictions that I've never felt before. And when we first started dating, marriage was like not on my mind whatsoever. Like, marriage was not on my radar. I was like, oh, he's so cute. Like, I'm literally 19 years old. I was 19 when I met him. We started dating. Like, I turned 20 shortly after. So pretty much we dated from like 20 until I was 23. But I literally was like, oh, he's so cute. Like, this is so fun. Like, I really like him. But I was not thinking like, oh, I'm going to marry this man. Like, marriage was not on my mind. But then when you date someone for 3 years and you're 23 and everyone's getting engaged, you're like, okay, so it's either we break up and I literally am in the trenches, or we get married, which is crazy. So I started thinking a lot more seriously about things, and I started praying a lot more, and I just started really, really connecting with God so much more. Like, he was just calling out to me so much at this time, and I started feeling convictions that I hadn't felt before. I started going to the Christian church, because before I was like definitely lukewarm. Like, for the first 2 years of our relationship, I was definitely like very lukewarm. Even like 2.5, 3, even our whole relationship, like I was lukewarm, very lukewarm. And I'd go to church like here and there. If I was like stressed or whatever, I would go to church. I'd like hop in with my mom. But then towards the end of our relationship, like I started consistently going to church every single Sunday. And I also started going to a Christian church. And I started learning a lot more about just God and what it actually means to live for God, and like what the Bible tells us, and like just the concept of sin. And like I said, I started gaining new convictions that I've literally never felt before, which is also a crazy, crazy feeling. And I started feeling convicted about things like purity and like premarital sex. We were living together, like just all these different things where I was like looking at our relationship and I was like, wow, I feel so like different about these things. And it's really starting to like pull on my heart, and also just occur to me like why God tells us not to do these things, and why it's like important to follow his way of life, I guess you could say. So that started happening, and that was scary to me because we had been living like that for 3 years, and things are getting really serious. We were like looking at the next steps and whatever in our relationship, and it was just like, it was scary to me because I was like, oh my gosh, well, if we've been like living in sin and stuff, like, is this like what God is calling for me? Like, is this what he is like, is this what's in his will for me? And I just really, really started thinking like so deeply. And long story short, our relationship ended. I am a very like private person, and I'm very respectful of other people's privacy, and I will never, ever, ever exploit another person's privacy. Like, that's just not the kind of person that I am. But I obviously want to share like the knowledge I've learned throughout all of this, and it's been just the craziest journey of my life. So I will be giving you guys like knowledge, wisdom, advice, but I'm never going to like go into detail. No, we are not getting married. We broke up, and it was very painful because it came out of nowhere. And it was just the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like one of the hardest things I've ever experienced in my life. It just felt like the way I would describe it when it happened was, imagine you have like a dinner table and it's all set up, and you have like the pretty glassware, and you have like the nice beautiful turkey in the middle, and everyone's like wine glasses and candles, and like it's beautiful, and the tablecloth, and then all of a sudden someone just comes up and just snatches the tablecloth and it just is destroyed. Like that's literally what it felt like. It felt like the rug just got like pulled out from under me, and I was just like broken, like so incredibly hurt, and just like honestly devastated that it happened, because I was so invested in this relationship, you guys. Like I said, we lived together, we had a dog together, like all these things just made it a million times harder, and it still is hard. Like I'm literally still going through it, and healing and learning, and that's why I'm wanting to share like everything I've learned with you guys for anybody else who's out there who's like dealing with this. But I will just say that is what strengthened my relationship with God more than anything I've ever experienced in my life, you guys. Like, I don't want to cry. And I'm pulling out the fan because and these aren't like sad tears. These are just tears of gratitude, because I'm grateful for the way that God has changed my life. And it truly blows my mind. Like it absolutely just blows my mind that He has opened my eyes in ways that I couldn't even imagine. Like I'm a different person. And I just want you guys to know that if you are watching this and you are in suffering, that I know it hurts and it's really hard, but the refinement of your soul and of your spirit that you will experience in such a rapid pace will genuinely blow your mind. Like the way that the Lord is just able to refine you so much in the difficult moments, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Like I cannot begin to explain to you guys how He's just changed my life. And I'm going to dive deeper into what I mean by that, obviously, in future podcast episodes. I don't want to like spill all the beans right now. Gotta come back for more. But just little examples of like, I remember when I was in the relationship, and I would think to myself like, oh my gosh, well, like if we ever broke up, like what would I do? Like I don't even have a car, because at the time I was like driving one of my ex's cars, and I was so scared, like, oh my gosh, like what if I don't make enough money on my own, and then I can't afford a car, or I can't afford to do X, Y, and Z, or like live my life, or whatever. All these fears and all these doubts and all these like insecurities and things that I was just so afraid of, and that were like keeping me stuck in fear. And God just delivered me from every single one of those things, especially like friendship. I was so scared that I wasn't going to have any friends and that I was just going to be alone because I never had the time to make good friendships because I was so invested in this relationship, you guys, and it was my everything, my heart and my soul, and just it took up all my time and all my energy pretty much. And I didn't have time for friendships. I didn't have time for like working so much. Like I just was so invested in like cooking, cleaning, taking care of our dog, like making so many sacrifices, moving across the country, like doing everything to support my partner at the time's goals and dreams. And so I was really scared about those things. And the Lord delivered me from every single one of those things. I have the just the most amazing friends now, and I just, if I start talking about it, I will cry because I'm so grateful. And God just put them into my life at the perfect time. And obviously, I did not see the breakup. Like, I didn't like prepare for the breakup or plan for it or anything like that. It just like happened on a random day, like literally a random day, just, happened. So now looking back and seeing how God put all these things in my life at the perfect time, I moved out months before, like a month before. I got my own car. I already had all my stuff moved out. I had my friendships, beginning to really blossom. And now I look back and I'm like, everything was so intentional. Everything was so intentional, you guys. God prepared me. And I know that that wasn't a coincidence. I know that that was God. I know that that was him having his hand on me, like I said. And now I look back on every other experience in my life and I see how it wasn't just then, it was my entire life that he's been doing that for me. From the time he answered my prayer when I was a little girl, praying for my mom's job, all the times I was living in sin in high school when he tried pulling me out, and until now, like he's always been there. And now that I've been in suffering, well, I'm coming out of the suffering, but I was in some deep suffering for like a little bit, and I had just no choice but to lean onto God and to just, it was the kind of hurt where I had no choice but to get on my knees and just cry out to God and literally just be like, please, like, I need you. And although that sucked, it is the reason why my faith is the way it is right now. And that is what's going to be my foundation for literally the rest of my life. And now I have like a blank slate, and I get to wait until marriage now going forward. I get to not live with my next partner before marriage. Like, I get to not live in sin whatsoever. I literally have the opportunity now to have a godly and Christ-like relationship in every way that I dream of and pray for and long for. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And I feel like God has just given me that opportunity, and he has delivered me. Like, he is right now delivering me through this difficult time. So he is so good. He is so faithful. My camera is blinking at me that it's about to die, so I need to wrap this up. But yeah, he has changed my life in the last, I think, 7 or 8 months. I don't even know how long it's been, but I am super excited to share all of that with